Richie. Richie. What have you done? Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Floss. It's the final recap of this year's Australian Bachelor starring our very own Richie, or as Australia seems to call him today, Disappointment Richie, or Letdown Richie, or What the Hell Richie. Let's go back a step to the Wednesday night episode with the final three. They went to Indonesia, as Richie liked to call it, for the entire episode in an effort to maybe, I don't know, appear that he wasn't a typical Australian going to Bali. Richie, come on. Everyone goes to Bali. If you can name me 3 other Indonesian cities, I might believe you, but I don't think you can. So let's move on. He had good dates with Nikki and Alex. What did they do? They did stuff. It was romantic. The key of the episode, though, was Olena. Olena, who has for so long been mysterious and not willing to share her feelings. And because apparently when she shares her feelings, Richie doesn't really want to hear them. They had their final date together, literally their final date together, and it was wildly entertaining. And Richie, sticking to the script, asked, what did your family think of me? Olena, not sticking to the script, laid it all out and said, no, they weren't really that impressed. They've got some serious questions about you living in Perth, me living in Sydney, just how invested we are in this relationship as a whole. Robot Richie, freaked him out. So they went for a surf to try and, work through that, of course, because that's what you do when a tough thing happens in a relationship, you go and surf it off. And then when they came back on the beach, they chatted about it more. And it just continued to unravel before our very eyes. But what was the most interesting thing is that this was always going to be the case with Olena. She gave him all the signals that she wasn't fully invested from day one. So I kind of don't, I'm not against her on that. She is. I'm good for you, girl. You know what you want and what you're not liking. What was interesting was how ruffled Richie, especially in their final romantic cheese platter candle date element, seemed ruffled by this, seemed really kind of like it threw him and he got very frustrated. And I kind of was like, this is what it's been like all along, you stupid idiot. Like, it's not like she hasn't been giving you the same response. And then when she asked you some tough questions, he couldn't answer them. He really failed to kind of get beyond the show, or beyond the script. And it kind of, you could almost see him looking off camera to the producers going, she's not following the Love Me script. Put it back on. So they had the rose ceremony, which had no tension in it at all, and the rumour has it that she actually had asked him to vote her off, which you could really tell, because he was decisive, she was ready to go, she was probably hiding a cocktail in the back going, let's do this, and boom. So that left us with our final 2, Alex and Nikki. Alex White Rose, and Alex, who I think has another part to her personality. What would it be? That's right. She never talks about it much, but Alex has a child. So the girls met Richie's family. Basically, Richie's mum is a hard ass. And in a great way, Kate. I love you. You were grilling them. She was not impressed really by Alex, and she found Alex having a child. I don't think she was negative about Alex being a single mum, and I think some people on this social media misinterpreted that. I think she was actually, really interestingly, negative about Richie's ability to understand what he was taking on. Because probably herself as a single mum, you're not introducing a man to the kid and the life if he's going to walk away in 6 months' time. And I think this is the first sign we got of what was going to come, what was to come, in that she was dubious about Richie's commitment to this as a real thing. Nikki's date with Richie and his mum and sister, the sister was there but not really, went really well. They loved her, they were funny, she was from Perth or close to Perth, so that was exciting. And that's when I got really nervous, and I was texting some people and I'm like, this makes me worried, because I was hoping that he would pick Nikki, and this made me really worried, because I'm like, they wouldn't edit this way. There's always a twist and a sting, So Richie went on a final date with each of the ladies. Again, the date with Nikki was too good to be true now in retrospect, except for the monkeys. I'm not a monkey person. Monkeys climbing all over you, grabbing, no thank you. And then we had the date with Alex, and this is where we maybe started to glimpse which way he was going to go, in that while their conversation and everything was great and fantastic and whatever, Richie was all about the passion. He was ready to, he was macking on to her big time. So then we get to the final day, the final getting ready, supersonic hairdryer, thanks Dyson, and Richie standing there in a blue suit. Richie, really? Come on, mate. This is the final moment. Put the suit on. Put the black suit on. Look respectable. And then the ladies pulled up, and after an ad break of whose gold sandal was that, we guessed and we saw it was Nikki. Yeah, Australia lost their minds. Twitter was actually hilariously funny. Basically, he kind of said, I have to follow my heart to Alex, which I know that she knows who you're following the heart to. Don't mention her name, man. That's just kind of subtle a wound, okay? Just to say, led me elsewhere. Be vague, be euphemistic. You have been all season. Why couldn't you stick with that? Nikki handled it like a champion. She was classy. She didn't break down in front of him. She said that for the car, had a nice dignified cry. She said she wished him well, hoped he had the best, da, 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 da. You held your head high. Australia thinks you're fantastic. And if you can keep the momentum going, you could find yourself as the Bachelorette next year. It's a long way away. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So then we get to Alex arriving, and she's very excited. And her Richie's declaration to Alex about how he wants to follow his heart and he's falling in love with her. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it at all. At all. There was no genuine sense of emotion. There was no real beyond the script words. You know, I think back to Sam Wood telling Snezana that he loved her, and that entire season I kind of was a bit on him anyway, but the minute that he told Snezana she was the one, I was onto it, in that he was vulnerable, he was real, he seemed actually invested in it, and you could hear it in his words, in his tone, in his voice, and you were like, oh my God, he really does love her. Whereas Richie was just the same stilted Ken doll robot that he has been all season long, and it wasn't like the weight of the charade was lifted and you could suddenly tell Alex that he loved her. It just stayed in place. The facade stayed in place. So they were happy, great, good, hugs, doom. So I didn't recall this last night when this all happened because I wanted to let the dust settle, because usually as well what happens is, potentially, they go and do their media circuit the next day, being today, and that you get to see a bit more of their personalities. You get to see that maybe all the cameras was, stifling their ability to be natural. No, it has not been good for Richie and Alex out there. Firstly, if you're one of those people who's gone onto their pages and harass them, don't. That's not cool, guys. That is not cool at all. I'm all for having an opinion about it and for playing around and being fun and everything like that. But these are people, and the show is a different category in that it's characters and that they're deliberately edited a certain way. But don't bring it to their door. That's crap. They have been on the media circuit, and the media are dubious. I think everyone's a little bit very doubtful about the reality of this relationship. So I think we may be in Australia about to be having our very first couple, amazingly, really, who won't make it. Because Australia has a pretty decent track record, aside from the Blake situation. And even then, he kind of went a long way afterwards with his chosen. Has a decent track record of our couples staying together. Whereas in America, this is par the course. This is pretty normal in terms of if they have stayed together for the film, for the 3 month later thing, where there's a special where we can talk more about it, chapter 10, then it falls apart pretty quickly. So in America, it's almost the opposite, where it's a shock if they stay together and they seem to genuinely like each other, and you kind of expect it to fall apart. So the bigger question that we have is, how did we get here? How have we gone so far from a season that started with so much promise? And I think it has a lot to do with Richie, but it also has a lot to do with the editing and the production. A lot. In that, editing these shows, and this is why I actually really like these reality TV shows, is it actually takes a great lot of skill, because you've got to juggle the audience's ability to believe mixed with the story narrative. And you'll see all over the internet today, Australian authors specifically, and I'm going to leave a link to Jodie McAllister's review of the recap of last night, because she's actually, as she said, I'm not laughing at her, I'm laughing at the whole, she's a romance expert. She's actually done a degree in literature and romance and the creation of story characters and arcs. And this is what The Bachelor is. It's a story. It's got characters and it has to hit some points. And the reason I think we've ended up in a situation where the public were on Team Nikki is because the show took us there. They led us down that path, in that Nikki was the relatable girl next door. She didn't really seem to have a major flaw. And that's great. I mean, in real life, that's fantastic and it's good. But in a show, if you're going to have that girl left, then you want the hero to be celebrating his choice, then you've got to give us a compelling other option. And the other option, the show edited to be the needy, clingy, quite immature at times, juvenile Alex, who, while she was a mother and everything like that, she had all these facets that kind of didn't gel and were highlighted to her disadvantage. So I think Nikki, Alex and Richie all have strikes against the editing, because I think they can say that it led people to this drama. So then we end up with Richie in the middle, who, again, I've said it before, he was such a disappointing lead. And the reason is, and I can now say it fully, is he never fully invested himself in this process. You can see it in the way he held back his feelings when he was telling Alex how he felt, which sounds, doesn't make sense, but it does, because he never was vulnerable. And I think Richie's greatest problem was he wasn't there for the right reasons, the old Bachelor cliche. But I don't actually think he was genuinely looking for a relationship. I think he wants to find a girl to play and mess around with and be fun with and da-da-da. But does he actually want to, I don't want to say settle down because it sounds so antiquated, but does he actually want to commit himself to someone and be vulnerable and open and share himself? And never in the show did we get that. And that's why I think as well that final rose ceremony was so anticlimactic, because you never felt Richie's desire for this to work. He seemed to have fun. It was great. Ha ha ha. Ooh, that laugh. But it was never you never saw him have that vulnerability. And that was the key. We never saw it in him. And the show producers and editors didn't get him there. And that's a flaw on them, because that's what they've got to do, is to actually work with these people to manipulate the situation that way. Now, this sounds terribly contrived, but this is what reality television is. This is not a documentary series. This is a reality-produced show that has elements that it has to get. And so what we did is we navigated the first half of the season really well with our crazy out-of-the-box characters and our wild shenanigans. But what should be running at the same time? So you've got, story A, which is the first 6 episodes or whatever, first half. It should be the centre point. The crazies, the villains, the drama. Running in the background should be the slow burn in relationships. So that when you get to about that halfway mark, you've got to switch the gear and say that the villains might, if they're still there, still be in it, but we have to bring to the fore the genuine relationships, or the genuine relationships that take stage, that people start to root for, because it's like barracking for a team. You've got to follow someone and have people, and team so-and-so versus team so-and-so, and, and part of that is that those relationships actually have to seem viable. And never, both actually for Nikki and Alex, did any of them seem viable. The production team and the editing team really need to look at what went wrong this season. Yes, the ratings were good. I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, in the way that even if you're a great team and getting great ratings, you have to look back and say, where can we adjust? And the general disappointment from it, don't ignore that, Bachelor producers. Don't ignore what went wrong, because things went right. For the final time, don't worry, I'll be back for Bachelorette, but for the final time for The Bachelor, I will be giving out my 3 roses. Let's do this. All right, my season roses. Roses, performances for the season. I'm gonna give my first rose to Kira, because she was entertaining. And that, if we could see from Richie Snooze, was so important, in that you've got to actually bring know who you are, know what your role is in the show. She knew she wasn't the star, she wasn't going to win his heart, so she came to play. She had her jokes, in terms of, it wasn't like funny jokes, but she had her lines, and she had her pieces to camera that were completely editable and cuttable and used for promos, and she knew what she was. She had no shame about it. So good on you, Kira. Yeah. I'm going to give my second rose to Nikki, because you deserve a rose, because you didn't get one for the final time. But I think you also were a great person in the show, in terms of you carry the girl next door role beautifully. You actually resisted the temptation to really bitch at other people, which probably when you were doing those in-camera moments could have been easy to do. And I just generally think you're a nice person, and I think you should be the Bachelorette, because I think you would actually probably be a bit more open and vulnerable to the experience. And if only so we can get Snowy back to do some more judging. Also, can we have Snowy confront Richie? Let's have that happen. And I'm going to give the final rose to you guys out there, to all the people that I tweet with, and to the people who comment on the Bachelor recap vids that I've been doing this year. I've had so much fun. It's been awesome. So good work for you, everybody. You all get a rose. Gonna have to divide the petals up amongst yourselves. So that was Richie's season. We all survived. Yay. I don't know if Richie did. I will see you next week for Georgia Love, our new Bachelorette, which I'm excited about, because already in the promo she looks to be more open, more excited, more ready to commit to this process. So I will see you. I'll be doing the usual style of recapping the 2 episodes on the Thursday night, if not the Friday morning, depending on my life, my schedule. And I will see you there. Otherwise, you can always follow and subscribe to the blog for book reviews and fun stuff like that. But thank you for being part of the Bachelor journey. It's been a crazy ride, but I couldn't have done it without you guys. Thanks.